would have done anything for Prabhupada. I spoke of many times. Is all Prabhupada had to do was look at Brahmananda to do something, especially if there was a little difficulty. So Brahmananda, he could, in all facets, he would take care of Srila Prabhupada, and he was very happy to be by Srila Prabhupada's side. So, beginning, are we going to start with Gargamuni Prabhu showing videos, or? Okay. So, well, I guess I'm supposed to be acting as NC somehow or other, so I'll say a little something off and on, but we can get the program started nicely with Davashakti Mataji. You'll speak for us. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunivari Paschati Deshatarine. Well, Gargamuni, he was Brahmananda's brother, but actually Brahmananda has hundreds of brothers and sisters. We're all his little brothers and sisters. And personally, Brahmananda was more or less my first temple president at the second temple in New York. Though I joined in Philadelphia, we would go there for Mahasankirtan, for different festivals. And Brahmananda, he was everyone's guardian. Just after that, Prabhupada called him, Vishnu John, Gargamuni, and Subal to take sannyas. They went to Los Angeles and they came back with their dandas, and we had raging Sankirtan all over New York City. You remember that? Yeah. We all came up from all over the place, and I wrote to Prabhupada about it, how ecstatic it was. I thanked him for sending the 4 sannyasis to enliven all the devotees. Oh, yeah. There's Kanchanbala, too. Those were happy days. All we had was Sankirtan. That was it. Just singing and dancing and feasting. Yeah, there's Kanch right behind. So we went up for the big Mahasankirtan, and then right after that, because Subal was the temple president in Philadelphia, he brought everybody down to Philadelphia. And at that time, Prabhupada sent me my initiation letter. I ran in and showed it to the sannyasis. Of course, it didn't mean anything to them, but it meant so much to me that they were there. And then from there, we went to New Vrindavan, all in the same van. And while in Philadelphia, the 4 sannyasis were discussing deep philosophy that none of us could understand. And they expressed their philosophy there in New Vrindavan, and still none of us could understand it. So, because it was way over my head, being a brand new devotee, I just went to the kitchen. But I remember how according to Brahmananda, Prabhupada was everything. He was the world. He was as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maybe he went a little too far, and Prabhupada corrected him. But for him, for Brahmananda, Prabhupada was just his whole life and soul. And whatever Prabhupada asked him to do, he was ready to do. The most daring things, going to Pakistan, then going to Africa, and really taking risks alone. Imagine a whole continent Brahmananda was supposed to conquer, all of Africa. And he made a rule. He had heard that sannyasis should only stay 3 days. He would only stay 3 days at different life members' houses. So there was no one as trustworthy, as powerful, as Prabhupada gave so much love to Brahmananda. it wasn't like any other devotee. He was the first temple president of our movement. He was initiated in the second initiation. He came just a day or two after the first initiation, so Prabhupada initiated him on the second one, right? Brahmananda, Satsvarup. Yeah, it was the second initiation on Radhastami, correct, Gargamuni? Yeah. And then you got on the third initiation.
I came 4 days before.
It was a little too early.
I was on the third in October.
In October, right? So, but Prabhupada trusted Brahmananda. That was the most important thing. That love and trust. Brahmananda put his whole life into Prabhupada, gave his whole life to Prabhupada. Such a powerful man. And when Shrutakirti was this servant, a good portion of that time, both here in Vrindavan and in Bombay also, when Shrutakirti wasn't there, Brahmananda was the servant. So I got a lot of personal experience of getting roughed up by him. If even the tiniest, if too much salt, I thought he was going to kill me one day. And so Brahmananda really, we learned coming right through the disciplic succession, the parampara. He was so close to Prabhupada, and Brahmananda taught us so much in our spiritual life. So he'll always be my big brother. Gargamuni will be my big brother. And this is a very deep, loving family, this ISKCON. It's not an institution. It's a family. And we have to understand that each one of us are family members. We might be aunts, uncles, nephews, sons, daughters, whatever it is, but it's just a spiritual family. And this ISKCON is also in the spiritual world. So we have to very, very carefully and lovingly associate with each other and realize that all of these relationships, the center is Srila Prabhupada. And from Srila Prabhupada, he has his core devotees, Brahmananda being the foremost of them, and we can learn so much from them, which right now we'll be doing. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you very much. I liked very much what Daiva Shakti said, how back then, of course, we still are, where we strive to be a family, and everything, those words we would say so much back in the 70s, love and trust. Everything was based on love and trust. And certainly, Brahmananda Prabhu, he had great love for Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had that great love for Brahmananda Prabhu. You saw the one photograph of Brahmananda carrying, then it was the red bag. When I first became Prabhupada's servant, from the beginning, he had the white bag. Oh, I'm very familiar with the white bag. It took a good 6 months before I was allowed to carry the white bag. If you were able to carry that bag, the white bag, and later the red bag, that meant Prabhupada had faith in you. He trusted you. It didn't come automatically just because you had tilak, dhoti, kurta. That didn't mean you were trustworthy. He had to see. And Prabhupada was very practical. He had to see that trust was there. Every Elmira all over the world was under lock and key. Not that it was just open. So as he said, Brahmananda, Prabhupada knew from the very beginning. He was sold out to Srila Prabhupada. In the 90s, I was living in New Jersey, little town right outside Philadelphia. And at that time, Brahmananda, he was distributing the conversations books. There was about over a dozen of them. And he was traveling all around the US just distributing these books. And he had his little laptop then, just like that. I remember he was sitting at the kitchen table. And you didn't say no to Brahmananda. So if he wanted to distribute a set of books, you bought those set of books. He stayed with us for a few weeks at that time. And
Put you in a headlock.
that was one way he would sell books.
He was a wrestler.
Yes, I had 2 sons. They were both in high school and they were on the wrestling team. So that's all Brahmananda had to hear. Oh, you're wrestlers? He took them on one at a time. The 2 of them probably weighed the same as Brahmananda at that time. But he wrestled them down in the living room very quickly. But he was delightful. They had such a good time with him. But again, that was late. And we cooked whatever he wanted. We were cooking for him. So he had that way. He could just come into your place and be part of your family. As we say, it's so nice you say, we're not an institution. We need to put that everywhere, in every temple. We're not an institution, we're a family, Prabhupada's family. And he accepted that very readily, that when he came into your place, he was like your boy. He might have been 50 years old, didn't matter. He'd instantly become your son. And he had no difficulty in saying, you cook this for me, you do this, you do this. I remember we put a telephone in the room he was staying. I don't know what my telephone bill was that month. It was higher than usual back in those days, long distance calls. I owe it to Brahmananda for joining Srila Prabhupada for my second time as Prabhupada's servant. I was with him from Janmashtami of 1972 to the end of 73. And then I disappeared. I went to Caracas, Venezuela to the temple. And gradually I wound up back in New Vrindavan in July of 74. And fortunately, Prabhupada came back to New Vrindavan at that time. And Brahmananda was his secretary. His servant, again, was gone after some 6 months after me that Satsrup Maharaj had left. Prabhupada was there for a week, and I didn't do any personal service during that week. Maya is very strong. She can bewilder you. We heard that story this morning, Tamal Krishna Maharaj's story about on the train. The little man comes in, wedges his way into the seat, then he brings his son, another one, and his fat wife, he said, this is how Maya comes. Little things, and all of a sudden, you're completely bewildered. While Brahmananda was there, he had a cold, or flu or something. And of course, Kirtanananda Maharaj was there, so Brahmananda said he was sick. And Kirtanananda came with the hypodermic needle, everything, and the little vial, and Brahmananda said, what is it? He said, well, it's the antibiotic we use for the cows. So he wanted to inject them with the same antibiotic. I can't remember if Brahmananda took it or not. And then I always tell the story while we were there. So intimate relationship Prabhupada had with him. And it was the day Kirtanananda asked Prabhupada to make rasgullas, show us how to make rasgullas. We're making sandesh, we're making burfi, but our rasgullas were struggling. Prabhupada said, yes, I'll show you how to make rasgulla. He said, you prepare the cheese, the paneer. He said, when it's ready, you call me. So they did that in the little kitchen there in Bahulaban, in the farmhouse. And then they had the sugar water boiling, slow boil, rolled all the balls, everything was ready. And then Prabhupada instructed, just showing them, do like this. You put them in, and Prabhupada had the ladle, and the little balls, they started to expand. Rasgullas, they have to grow, they expand. And we're all watching, thinking this is mystical process. Prabhupada's, he's doing something here, and these rasgullas are growing. And then we're all looking, And Prabhupada looked at Brahmananda. He said, "You've half eaten them." Brahmananda turned all red. Prabhupada was smiling. And then after a few minutes, Prabhupada said, "You do like this." And the rasgullas, they'd flip over. And as I said, and Prabhupada handed the ladle to Kirtanananda, and he walked out of the room, and they all collapsed. All the rasgullas in the wok collapsed to their original size. And we're all just looking. It was mystical. Prabhupada he made them dance, even the rasgullas. He made them dance in the sugar water. Even though they were touched by Prabhupada, we didn't care whether they collapsed, not collapsed. We all ate them with delight. My godbrother, Dhritarashtra, told me a little story this morning. We were sitting after Guru Puja. He said, I think it was in the early 80s. He said Brahmananda was heading to Africa, I guess. And Dhritarashtra had his ticket. They were traveling from Delhi to Mumbai. And Brahmananda sees him. And he said, "Where's your luggage?" And he said, "Well, I don't have any luggage." He said, "Well, now you do." And he handed him this. He said, "Carry on." He said, "This is your carry-on. You take this carry-on." And Dhritarashtra, he said, "I tried to pick it up." He said, "It must have weighed like 80 pounds, this carry-on." He said, so he's struggling with it. Brahmananda said, "You have to make like it's very light." He said, "It's carry-on. They're not going to let you take it on the plane." So he complied. He did it, and he helped him. I said, "What was in it?" He said, "I think there was silver, different things in it that he was bringing to Africa for the preaching, for arti, paraphernalia, everything like that." So he used. We learned that from Prabhupada. Prabhupada was very expert. He could use anyone, anyone to do anything. It didn't matter your position from the top down, GBC, XYZ. If you were there, you could engage you in Krishna service. So Brahmananda, he was very expert like that. I can go on, but I think I can go back and forth in between.
What about the Kurukshetra story? The Kurukshetra story.
The Kurukshetra story. Yes. Brahmananda and I, we had a very interesting relationship. My relationship with most of Prabhupada's secretaries and like that was interesting because they were old in my eyes. I was 20, they were 30. That was a big difference when you're young. You're young, and he was around since the beginning. And we know he was the first one to dance too. He started dancing. He tells that once he started, he didn't think he could stop. And Prabhupada, he would chant for hours. So Brahmananda just kept dancing. I was here with him in 1973. He was Prabhupada's secretary. And that's when we went to Mayapur. And at that time, us coming from the West and associating with the devotees that had been in India, particularly in West Bengal, so many things had changed. Evening arati went from very slow, and now it was double speed. Dinanath banging on the drum, chanting everywhere. So much energy was there, so much passion was there. And the dancing, everyone was dancing, not just doing the Prabhupada step, dancing back and forth, going back and forth from the back of the temple to the front of the temple. So Brahmananda always loved to dance. I did too. Play cartels, dance, whatever, always dance at kirtans. Prabhupada's there, everyone's dancing. And then we came back to Los Angeles after that trip. It was the spring of '73. The temple room was a little narrower than this. It was actually the original temple room, so it was half this size. And kirtan was going on. I don't know who was leading kirtan, but Brahmananda and I, we were on left and right of Prabhupada's Vyasasan. And kirtan and Prabhupada, he's always playing kartals. And they're dancing, everyone's dancing. And Brahmananda and I were looking at one another, and he looked at me, and he went, And I just shook my head, and we started moving from Prabhupada's Vyasasana up towards the deities. And no one else was moving. We didn't do that at that time. But now we're pushing back and forth. So gradually the whole temple room's going back and forth as Brahmananda and I are on each side of Prabhupada dancing. A few steps up, a few steps back. Prabhupada's playing kartals. This is what it was like to be with Prabhupada. If you had a question, imagine you would just go into Prabhupada's room, offer obeisances, and ask him. We had that, his entourage, it was Prajumna. He went in after the kirtan to Prabhupada's sitting room. Prabhupada, is that all right? He said, is that dancing okay? Is it bona fide? Prabhupada said, yes, it's okay. That was it. That was the end. In 75, we traveled together with Prabhupada. And that's when he went working his way back to Mayapur for a big, big festival, Gaur Purnima festival, 500 devotees, 490 of them from the West. That was when, all there, and it cost, well now fares are going up, but the prices were about the same, $1,000, fly back and forth to India for 1 week, 2 weeks, 500 devotees. You know, Prabhupada said, we make lakh of rupees in a day, you spend that lakh by the end of the day. No little bit for savings, otherwise whatever you collect, you spend. You know, we're all on the veranda. Brahmananda, Prabhupada, he would like to chant on the veranda in Mayapur. It was beautiful, breezes always coming through, just like it is here now. That's Mayapur, all the time. And Prabhupada would chant.
First jumbo jet to land in Calcutta, 350 devotees. And the president of the Pilots Association was the only one trained in handling a 747 jumbo.
Uh-huh.
And it was the first time that a jumbo plane ever landed in Calcutta. Was for the Mayapur Festival in 1977.
With the devotees, huh?
With 350 devotees.
Yeah.
They flew from LA.
They chartered, Mahendra, chartered the flight. We chartered the whole airplane. The whole airplane. So there wasn't people just sitting in their seats. There's kirtan going on. And they would have to stop the devotees because you're in a plane, 500 miles an hour, and people are jumping up and down. Yeah. But at that time in 75, Brahmananda said, Prabhupada, all these devotees coming to India, he says it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. So much money. And Prabhupada, in his own way, he looked at Brahmananda, he said, what does it cost to feed you in this lifetime? And Brahmananda smiled. He said, a lot, Prabhupada. He said, yes. He said, we spend, whatever we have to spend, we spend. But this was Prabhupada. He bringing these people, he knew the investment. It was an investment in the future. Right? Prabhupada didn't see things, what's happened. I always was like that. That's all I knew what was happening today, tomorrow. That's what I knew. But Prabhupada understood how he was planting so many seeds in so many ways. Now, of course, so many temples in India, all due to Prabhupada's vision, Prabhupada's purity, traveling all around. So at that kirtan, as Prabhupada traveled around the world in 2 months, he was in ecstasy. Every temple he went to, Prabhupada was in ecstasy. And he would be on the Vyasasana and he would just close his eyes and stop in the middle of a kirtan in Atlanta, the beginning of a lecture. So now in Mayapur, kirtan's going on and the place is packed with devotees surrounding Prabhupada on the Vyasasana, next to him, behind him, in front of him. And Prabhupada went into ecstasy, which means just closed his eyes, don't see anything. So this happened a few times. So everyone gets quiet. And then right behind Prabhupada, one of his sannyasis, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. And Prabhupada opened his eyes. And the kirtan went on. So after the kirtan, we're all walking up the stairs back to Prabhupada's room. And Brahmananda is speaking with some of his godbrother sannyasis. And they're saying, Prabhupada was in ecstasy. You broke it by starting the kirtan. Others were saying, no, we should always chant Hare Krishna. Some were saying, no, Prabhupada's in ecstasy. We should just be quiet until he opens his eyes again. Of course, never knew the answers. Prabhupada gets to his room and Brahmananda and I go in the room. And Brahmananda says to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, when that happens, when you're on the Vyasasana and you go into ecstasy, he said, what should we do? And Prabhupada looked at him. He said, I don't do that very often. He just dismissed it. But Brahmananda said, yes, but when it does happen, what should we do? Should we just sit there quietly? Should we chant Hare Krishna? Prabhupada said, just chant Hare Krishna. You just go away. Don't talk to me about these things, be in ecstasy. So that was Brahmananda. He was wonderful. He was simple, and yet he could do anything at the same time. As Daiva Shakti was saying, open an entire country. But there was a simplicity in him. It was Prabhupada loved so much. I think Bhargamuni Prabhu is ready to show some videos. Okay.
Also, we have Deepak Prabhu and Sri Ram Prabhu.
Okay. Where's Daddy Baksha? Oh, there he is. Daddy Baksha Prabhu, you can come forward.
Sri Ram Prabhu. अच्छा प्रभु जी बोल रहे हैं कि पहले थोड़ा वीडियो दिखा देंगे हाँ फिर उसके बाद आप और दादी बख्श प्रभु बोलेंगे ठीक यहीं पर बैठ जाइए
This is what Prabhupada said about Rakesh Pandit from the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. I mean, he want to start off first with Rakesh Pandit's Leela, which corresponds to Brahmananda being the first answer. You can read it in Lord Desha. It is stated that Rakesh Pandit was an incarnation of Aniruddha, one of the Prabhu expansions of Vishnu, Vasudeva, Sankirtan, Aniruddha, and Brahmananda. He could dance wonderfully for 72 continuous hours. When Lord Chaitanya played in a dramatic performance in the house of Srivas Pandit, Rakesh Pandit was one of the chief dancers, and he danced continuously for that length of time. Sri Govindadas, an Orient devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has described the life of Rakesh Pandit in his book, Vidura Krishmadaya. There are many disciples of Rakesh Pandit in Orissa, and they are known as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, although they are Auryas, and that's in Adi. And for the introduction of what Prabhupada's videos, I'd just like to read what was given to me, pushed under my door, unsigned, on the day of Brahmananda's disappearance. And the person who wrote this was reading on that day about Brahmananda Swami, which is written in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. I think there is nobody else in this arena, or maybe in the world, who has his name written in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. So the quote I just want to read is from the Adi Leela 9:15 in the purport. And the quote is, we may note in this connection that the name Brahmananda is accepted not only by Mayavadi sannyasis, but by Vaishnava sannyasis also. One of our foolish godbrothers criticized our sannyasi Brahmananda Swami, saying that his name was a Mayavadi name. The foolish man did not know that Brahmananda does not always refer to the impersonal Brahman. Para Brahman, the supreme Brahman, was Krishna. A devotee of Krishna, therefore, can also be called Brahmananda. Purport to the Chaitanya Lila. So this was pushed under my door. I don't know who wrote it. Looks like a Mataji's handwriting. But I just wanted to begin with that. And now we'll proceed to show some very nice short clips of Brahmananda. The first one. Well, the first one is called Brahmananda, How He Surrendered.
This and put it next to the computer.
इसके स्पीकर में लगा दो.
Prabhupada said, no, you bow down to your mother. So I turned and I got down and I bowed down and of course I said the mantra of obeisance to Prabhupada. But my mother was quite, she felt quite uncomfortable having her son bowing down at her feet. And then Prabhupada instructed me that whenever you see your mother, you bow down to her, you offer obeisance. And I used to do
Why
that.
not reach up to
Sometimes
speaker?
I would go home and visit my village in Connecticut.
He is saying this connection is from the
Distribute
speaker.
books to all our family
कौन वहाँ
friends.
से डायरेक्ट आ रहा है?
So I would, ring the doorbell and, my mother would open the door. There was nobody there, but there I was. On
If
the
you give
ground,
pen drive
offering
to him,
obeisance.
he can use it in his laptop.
So,
Then I think his laptop will be work. If you give the pen drive to him, he can use his laptop. है ना? इसे हो सकता है ना? You give your pen drive to his laptop, then mate can be work. देखो try करो लेके, give it to him. लो, जल्दी करो. लेते कितना तुम कारीगर.
Did you correct it? Did you show something?
Laptop.
वाईफाई का
So we're having technical difficulties. So, Prabhu, you can sit down and tell some of your time with Brahmananda Prabhu.
नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि श्री गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। His Grace Brahmananda Prabhu तिरुभाव तिथि महामहोत्सव की श्रील ब्रह्मानंद प्रभु की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद महाराज की जय। Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. You allowed me speak for few words here, and because Brahmananda Prabhu is very dearmost first disciple of the Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. First he joined in the movement, like Prabhupada always say in the Hindi lecture, he say, पहले ब्रह्मानंद आकर नाचा था कीर्तन पे वहाँ पर अमेरिका में, जब इस टाइम की स्क्वायर पार्क में कीर्तन हो रहा था प्रभुपाद ने, तो प्रभुपाद बोले कि मतलब ही से दैट फर्स्ट ब्रह्मानंद केम एंड ज्वाइन एंड डांस द कीर्तन. So Prabhupada also like him very much. Just like Sutakirti Prabhu told that he is very sweet and good. Yeah, he's very good. Because when he came to Vrindavan, I was here when he stayed in Vrindavan. He's making friendship with me very goodly, very nicely, always talking to me. Dadi Bhaksha Prabhuji, how are you? Are you okay? Always he touching me, my head, and like that, sitting nicely. So he has very good quality. He is very great Vaishnava, very sweet, always smiling. Everyone, even in the, like he talks, even the child also. I saw everywhere, walking, talking, friendly, everyone. So many time he was here is conducting and Prabhupada Disappearance Festival and Vrindavan, when he was a Vrindavan here, when he shifted here. So he told me once, he said, Dadi Bhaksha Prabhuji, I was just sitting on the back. He said, Dadi Bhaksha Prabhu? I say, yes, Maharaj Prabhuji. He said, I put your name to speak the Pandal on Prabhupada Disappearance Day, maybe for fifth, your name is the fifth number. I say, why my number fifth? I should be in the last. I am not a big devotee, other than so many big devotee, senior devotee there, Mataji, Prabhuji, Sannyasi. Then why are you putting my name in the fifth number? No, Prabhupada never, they consider he is my, senior devotee. The Prabhupada consider everybody equal, everyone. Now why you think like that? So I say, I put your name number 5th, so you have to come to Pandal and speak to glorify Prabhupada. Okay, so you don't like glorify Prabhupada? I say, yes, I like. But always they put me list and last. The way you put him in the first. Why? No, because you are very good devotee, always here sincerely doing Seva, Prabhupada mission. So I show you, so you have to be, I told Prabhuji, because sometimes the devotee, they told me they don't put my name in the list. Then Gopal Krishna Maharaj always, he is calling me from Pandal. Dadi Bhaksha, come here, that Dharmatma Prabhu behind me, Maharaj calling you, Prabhuji, Dadi Bhaksha, come, Maharaj calling, put your name and you have to speak in Pandal. I said, the other devotee, they are asking, me that Prabhuji, you are also Prabhupada disciple, why not you speaking? Everybody is speaking, you not. I say, Baba, they don't put my name because Indian devotee, they like me very much. When I speak and Pandal, they climb the hand, everything, they say, they're very happy. The same thing Brahmananda Prabhu also said to me, so many devotees, they like you speaking, so why you are neglecting? I say, you speak. I say, okay, Prabhuji. So whenever he is conducting the festival on Prabhupada disappearance and Bindravan and Kartik, and he put my name, not in the last, but 6, 7 numbers always. He calls me, he said, don't move, you sit here. And I announce your name, you will speak. I say, okay, thank you. So, he is very sincere. He always respects me very nicely. So, when Vyas Puja day, I chant this Mangala Sutra, Mangala Charan, and here and the Bindravan. Brahmananda Prabhu, he embraced me. Oh, this is wonderful. This is the real Mangala Charan. You chanting this Mangala Charan Prabhupada like very much. So this is glorification of Raman Reti and Prabhupada, Gaunitai. Prabhupada likes this very much. So you is speaking for that. So this is real Mangala Charan, not other sadhu come here and they speak like that. So there should be always this Mangala Charan be chant. So so he's always encouraged me. He's making me a very good friendly, nicely. I was so happy. So I am even very fortunate that day, his disappearance day, I am here. So I went to the Keshigat with him, Dinabandhu Prabhu. We do big kirtan there. We sit in a big sunset and Jamuna. We do kirtan. We put I have opportunity to put ghee on his body, So I feel I'm very much fortunate for that. That's what this Dharmatma Prabhu, he point out this. That's why he always calls me, you please Prabhuji come. He yesterday, he also remind me Brahmananda Prabhu's disappearance. Prabhuji, you please come. I say, okay, well, he's my friend. I definitely come. I spoke to him. So I'm very happy. So I'm very much pleasing. Now also, Sudhakirti Prabhu has become my friendship nicely. He's, he's friendly, speaking to me, smiling me. So, remembering Prabhupada's story, Katha. So I also say to him, very nicely, Prabhu, you speak like child. Like Prabhupada, real child, always you are smiling, this and that. So now we have become friendly like this. So this is, before I don't know Sudhakirti, he don't know me, Dadivaksha. So because now he know me, I know him, each other. So the same thing, Brahmananda Prabhu also like that. So God brother means we should always friendly each other, to talk together. So like that, this is the Vaishnava, Vaishnava's culture. So like this, so I'm very happy for this, the Brahmananda Prabhu's Tirubhav Tithi. I glorify him for few words, whatever, because beginning I don't know him much, because I was not went to America, German, Japan, Australia. I never went to UK, Europe, Africa, anywhere. I'm only in India. So whenever India, the guy, God brother comes, so I have friendly with him, very nicely, friendly with talking each others. So like this. So thank you very much. His Brahmananda Prabhu ki jai. Brahmananda Prabhu Tirubhav Tithi Mahotsav ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Jai. Jai. Hare Krishna.
And I went through the courtyard there, and there was this one little woman who was typing, completely immersed in the work. I associated this with manuscript, like must be some Islamic book. So I went up to the apartment, knocked on the door opened, Swami was there. I said, yes. I said, well, I can speak with you. Well, let's come in. And then we went to go into Prabhupada sat down in this little metal box with the little queen, and he started talking, he asked me my name, and I told him Bruce, and Prabhupada was talking about Brahmananda is the wild, and Lord, so on. And then, so I started telling Swami about myself. But then I just found myself saying that, well, I want to become a student full time. And actually, I did finish taking, I had taken a special training for teaching. And I was employed by the New York City Board of Education to teach review reading in the special program to culture with the bad children, means, you know, the ghettos. And so I said to Swami that, well, I just finished my training, actually my assignment was beginning the next day. And I said, yeah, my job actually beginning, I have a job in beginning of tomorrow is my assignment, but I just want to be with you. I just want to be a student. So, probably, well, that's fine. But you have a job. And I said, yes. He said, oh, what is the salary? So then Prabhupada explained to me Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. Explained Krishna telling Arjuna to do the duty, to do devotional service, to work for Krishna, but not partake in the fruits of the activity, give all the fruits of activity to Krishna. So Prabhupada explained to me, and then gave me a very practical instruction, first instruction. So he said, you must do it, and then you can also do your job, and you can also give the fruits of every job of Krishna. So my first service was to work and to give my salary to Prabhupada.
Brahmananda at that time was making $400 a month.
Yeah, very good.
And when Prabhupada said when Brahmananda came, my financial difficulties was over. Because when Prabhupada rented the storefront and the studio apartment, that was $200 for both a month. And Prabhupada had saved $200 from selling books, but then after paying that money, he had no money left. So who was going to pay the rent? This was in July of 1966. Somehow Prabhupada scraped enough money for August, but who was going to supply for September and October and going? There was no income except for books. And Prabhupada was selling his Bhagavatams that he brought from India for $5 per volume. Not very much, $5. At that time, maybe it was a lot of money. But $5 is not very much per volume. And he wasn't selling a lot of books just to students that were interested. So when Brahmananda came, his financial difficulties was over because the $400, the $200 went for the rent, and then we had to pay for the gas for cooking, then there was the electric bill. So everything was paid, and that's how it was. And Prabhupada didn't have to worry about getting donations, because in the evening he would pass around a basket
would cut up apples. Prabhupada would sit on the Vyasasana in the storefront and cut an apple into small squares. And he would pass that around. People would put money in the basket and take one square of apple as prasadam. And when Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasana, here next to him was a sink where we washed. In fact, that's where I took bath every morning. In the beginning, there was no place to take bath except from the sink, because me and Brahmananda were the only ones living in the storefront, and we didn't want to use Prabhupada's bathroom for washing ourselves. So we used to take sink baths, and Prabhupada told us, yes, if you clean the 9 holes of the body, then it's good as bath. So we used to clean the 9 holes of the body, and that was as good as bath. So that sink was about 5 feet away where Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasana. So Prabhupada would save the middle part of the apple for himself, and he would put it in his mouth, and he wouldn't eat the skin of the apple. So we would watch him eating, and then he would turn his head, and with great force, poof, he would spit the skin right into the sink 5 feet away. And people were awestruck. How do you do that? Who does that? And Prabhupada would do that every evening. He would spit right into the sink, and we'd go right in. He never missed. So there were many Shakti qualities to Prabhupada, even while he was spitting. You know, I used to watch him do the chaunts when he would do the chaunts for the doll in his apartment. And he would use a stainless steel cup with the pliers and put the ingredients and with the ghee and the spices and put it over the flame till smoke was coming. The pot was large, it was about 12 inches or 18 inches high, stainless steel. And then he would take the pliers and throw it into the pot of dal, and a huge flame would shoot out, hitting the ceiling. And he said, the Swami is producing fire. He has Shakti, he's a yogi. He can make fire. We didn't know what a chant was until later. And we thought Prabhupada had great powers that he was exhibiting, because the fire would shoot up right into as high as the ceiling. So these are some of the instances that Prabhupada surprised us. And he took it as a nonchalant thing. This, you know, happens ordinarily. He wasn't surprised by it. Anyway, I wanted to have Brahmananda describe more. Except I don't know how to go to the next one. I'm used to a mouse. My fingers are the scroll. This is the stroke story. What happened when Prabhupada had a stroke? This is where Prabhupada did the offering. This is myself, Brahmananda, this is Balaram.
I practice my Krishna consciousness by chanting when I work and on my way to work. And this is what we ask all the people to try chanting. Try when you wake up in the morning. Try on your way to work on the subway. I know I chant every day on the way to work in the subway. Other people are kicking and jumping out chanting. I enjoy my subway ride.
I was playing the bongo drum. And Prabhupada got his cartels. I played the bongo drum.
And now we're going to go uptown to St. Mark's Place, do our kirtan, and spread joy and peace to the people of New York. We invite all our friends to join us. Hare Krishna.
how did Krishna Balaram temples become manifest?
First of all, creation. What does creation come from? Huh? No, what prompts creation? All right, I'll tell you the answer. Desire. First you have to have desire, then you create the thing. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 13. Chapter 13 is stealing the boys and calves by Brahma. What's the significance of this chapter? Stealing the boys and calves by Brahma. What's the importance? This was the last chapter that Prabhupada translated of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right here in Vrindavan, in his house, on his bed. You've all seen the photos. Pradumya holding the dictaphone. So, this is the final chapter, and this verse, this purport, is one of the final verses that Prabhupada composed. So, we should think, the final words are most important. So in this purport, Prabhupada reveals, he talks about himself, which is very rare. Prabhupada in his purports hardly ever wrote about himself. He writes about himself, and he writes about the Krishna Balaram out here. So the verse number 50, is about the desire of the pure devotees. Do pure devotees have desires? And if they do, what are those desires? And where do those desires come from? Well, the verse explains that desire in the pure devotee is created by the sidelong glances of Vishnu or Krishna. So Prabhupada is writing about the word Svarkarthanam refers to great desires. As mentioned in this verse, the glance of Lord Vishnu creates the desires of the devotees. A pure devotee, however, has no desires. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami comments that because the desires of devotees whose attention is fixed on Krishna have already been fulfilled, the Lord's sidelong glances create variegated desires in relation to Krishna and devotional service. In the material world, desire is a product of Rajaguna and Tamaguna. But desire in the spiritual world gives rise to a variety of everlasting transcendental service. Thus, the word Svarkarthanam refers to eagerness to serve Krishna. In Vrindavan, there is a place where there was no temple, but a devotee desired, quote, "Let there be a temple, let there be seva, devotional service," unquote. Therefore, what what was once an empty corner has now become a place of pilgrimage. Such are the desires of a devotee. So, we may think that we constructed this temple and EDs and everything, but actually it was simply due to Prabhupada's desire. He wanted a temple in Vrindavan. And it was created. Simply, even this phrase, let there be a temple. You know where that comes from? It's a biblical phrase in Genesis. Because Prabhupada, he read the Bible at Scottish churches. Let there be light, and there was light. Let there be creation, there was creation. Let there be a temple, and there was a temple. So it was Prabhupada's, and he refers to himself as a devotee. He doesn't, in the third person, he doesn't even refer to himself in the first person. So humble. So because one devotee desired, even it was a vacant place, now it has become a place of pilgrimage. And we can see that in Prabhupada's entire history, his career, that everything happened because of Prabhupada's desire. We couldn't see that. He didn't reveal it to us. But otherwise, how did these happen? Otherwise, you have to call it miracles. Like I can tell you of McMillan.
Right, so there were some days where there was really no programs scheduled. So Prabhupada thought to go for a ride. They had this big limousine there, they all really had nothing to do. Prabhupada wasn't going, but let us go for a ride. And so we arranged to go. Mauritius is a really scenic, very beautiful place. It's kind of pristine island.
This is the story of Prabhupada's near-death accident. And it happened in Mauritius in 1975 when he went there. And Brahmananda explains, in one split of a second, Prabhupada changed his physical place in the car that saved his life. He moved his walking stick and put it in front of him and between the front seat as a brace. So when the impact, it was a head-on collision. So when the impact came, he didn't go forward because of the stick. And that happened a split second before the accident. And it was very dangerous, that accident. So Brahmananda explained that he was present during that accident.
So Prabhupada was riding in the back seat, I'm sitting next to him. Pushta Krishna was in the front seat. The driver was driving, and we were whizzing along. It was very pleasant. These sea breezes, the beautiful ocean. sky and everything is very nice. It's sugar cane growing. We were driving along the coastline. And beside him, Prabhupada had his cane. And Prabhupada was enjoying it very much. Had the window down, the fresh air. And he was sitting cross-legged on the seat, back seat. And Prabhupada was enjoying it. Then at a certain point, I didn't realize, I didn't notice it then, but later on, Prabhupada spoke. At a certain point, Prabhupada just took the cane and put it like on the floor, and was holding it like this with his two hands. I mean, just after taking the cane, we just made it turn on the corner, around the bend, and immediately, I mean, there was not a second to react. It happened so fast, head-on collision. What it was, when we found out, a tourist from South Africa was driving on the wrong side of the road, and that was it. So we just hit. I mean, there was boom, head-on collision, and everyone in shock. The driver, he's full of blood. He's just. I don't know what his condition was. To Krishna, the glass shattered, he's moving blood. I also, my arm gashed. Prabhupada had blood on his belly, his knee, and we're all shot. My first reaction, which is a little bit inappropriate, I just put my arms around Prabhupada, just held him. It was just so shocking. And Prabhupada didn't say anything. And then Krishna was out of the car. I was the only one who could function. Somehow I just got out of that car. The other car was a Volkswagen. It was a man and woman. The woman, she was like unconscious. Man, he was getting out of his car. And anyway, I had to get Prabhupada out of here. I didn't even know where we were. And I didn't know where our house was. I didn't know. And anyway, then after a while, our car comes by. And now Mauritius, of course, is it's an Indian place, and there are very few Western or white people. So anyway, this other car, the car that we had, there were white people. The car that also came, there were white people there. So I tried to stop the car. The car just went right by. They didn't want to. They saw the lights and they didn't want to. Anyway, then another car came by. And this time, I stood in the middle of the road. The car stopped. So the car stopped, and I went up to the people in the car, and I said, please, we need help. My grandfather, I don't know what to say. I said, my grandfather is injured, old man, and please let me take us to the nearest hospital. So they said, okay, but they also saw the other car with the woman. The woman was, they saw Prabhupada, they saw he was an Indian. Then they see this woman, she's unconscious, she's full of blood. Prabhupada just had a little bit of blood, but she was really bad. And Volkswagen had a collision. So, and then the other man was one for his wife, he wanted attention for his wife. So we were competing, and so they would say, well, maybe we should take her first, because they didn't have much room. And I said, no, you take us. They said, no, we want to go. And I just said, you're taking us, and you're taking us right now, and let's go. There's no. So they said, okay. And so I took Prabhupada out of the car, and we went and took, Prabhupada was absolutely silent, never spoke a word. Put him in the car, get in the car, and then these people start driving. And anyway, we're getting in the car, and the only reason they were taking it is because I forced them. And we get in the car, and they say, well, we don't know where the hospital is, and this and that, and we're going over here to a hotel, and you go to the hotel, and I said, no, we're going to go to a hospital right now. And so Prabhupada didn't say anything, so I knew whatever I was doing, Prabhupada was agreeing to, because he didn't say anything. So, but then I could see these people weren't helping us, and they didn't want to take us, they didn't want to find a hospital, they just wanted to go to, so I realized being with these people, this is not good. I just told them, all right, stop the car, they're not going to help us, stop the car. And they stopped the car, and I took them on, we got out of the car, and then they left, and then they were staying in the middle of nowhere, and I don't know where to go again. Lost. And then another car comes along, and I stopped that car. But this car had 3 Indian guys in it. And they saw Prabhupada, they were, offering respects and Swamiji, and I said, take us to the nearest hospital, go to the nearest hospital. Then Prabhupada said, no, take us home. No hospital. So I didn't know where our home was. Eventually they could understand where it was and so on. So anyway, they were very happy to take us immediately home, go around the other way to the other side of the island. I mean, it was quite a drive. So we go home and the car pulls in. Harikesh Maharaj was there. He didn't come with us. He was doing the transcription. He stayed back. He didn't know what, because we left in a limousine and we came back in this junky old, with 3 Indian boys, a junky old car. And then Prabhupada gets out of the car and there's blood on his door. Harikesh, she's shocked. Prabhupada not speaking anything. Just goes into the house, sits down in his place. And so we had to dress, there was a wound, we had to dress the wound, clean it, and so then Prabhupada was saying that now he wants to go back to Bombay. Prabhupada never wanted to leave Bombay anyway, even for any other trip, because Prabhupada was very much concerned with the Bombay project, getting the land, fighting all the government, municipality, the local politicians, the residents, the seller. It was just a constant battle. It required constant supervision. Prabhupada to do that.
So Prabhupada had a gash on his leg. So how did he treat himself? He had Harikesh get some neem pata, some neem leaf, and mashed it with some oil, and they made an ointment, and it was put on the gash. And in 3 days, it was done. It healed. So, yes.
When Prabhupada got back to Bombay, we were there at Prabhupada's Pulpit, so we came to his room, and all the devotees we didn't know, he picked up his dhoti and he showed everybody his wound. And I think he said the Brahmananda saved him at that time.
Yeah. He was the one that brought it back to the place. But it shows the Prabhupada, when he heard the word hospital, No. Even though there was a gas, no hospital. And even when he was here in his room, he pleaded to his disciples, never bring me to a hospital. Because he had that bad experience with me in '67 when he had the stroke. He said they wanted to experiment on his brain. And that's when they wanted to do a test. But they didn't say what kind of test. And Prabhupada asked the nurse, are there needles? And she said, no needle. But sure enough, when I brought him down on the gurney to the basement where they did the test, she came out from a curtain and she had a huge needle. And Prabhupada said they want to experiment, no, he said they want to experiment on his brain. Why so many young people are joining his movement? And it was a Jewish hospital, and almost 3/4 of the people joining were Jewish. So they were very concerned that why is he attracting these young people? And they wanted to experiment on his brain. And Prabhupada told me, immediately take me out. You call your brother and bring a car. And we brought him back to his apartment that very day. And I have the story of how the Bhagavad Gita got printed through the record. We made a record first of Hare Krishna. I mean, Prabhupada had tried, he appointed Brahmananda to be in charge of the publishing of the Bhagavad Gita. And he tried, he sent the manuscript to so many publishing houses and there was no response. And meanwhile, we made this record and it was very successful. And one night I went to this radio station that was an all-night radio station. It was very popular all over the world because all the radio stations would close after 11 o'clock and they would start their broadcast at 12 o'clock midnight. So the frequency was very high because the antenna was on top of the Empire State Building. So people in South America and even in Europe could receive the radio signal. And I knew if I brought the record there, they would play it because they were into Oriental and Indian things and artists. They had the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan came. And it was a hit station and everybody all over the world who were into that cultural scene at that time would listen to that station. It was WBAI. So I went up there, and as soon as I opened the door, a whole whiff of smoke, of marijuana smoke hit me. You know, they were all smoking marijuana, ganja. And so I gave them the record, and they played it. Actually, they played it until 6 in the morning. And they announced where they could get it from, with the address and how much money. So after the program, we got a box full, a courier brought a box full of letters that the station had received with money, checks, cash, for the record. And we learned later that George Harrison heard that station that evening. This is in 1966, before the devotees went in 1969. So, and he ordered 300 copies. He wanted 300 copies to give to his friends. So he had contact with Hare Krishna before there were actual devotees. So anyway, one day we got a letter from Macmillan. It was an accountant who wanted the record. So Brahmananda thought, usually we didn't bring those kind of letters to Prabhupada, because he was just ordering the record. So we had these special cardboard wrappings, we could put the record in to set it out. But Brahmananda thought, well, maybe I'll see Prabhupada about this. So he went up and said, I got a letter from Macmillan, had the Macmillan letterhead. And so Prabhupada said, you go there. Don't send in the mail. You go yourself and bring the record, and you will see. But Prabhupada said, he has nothing to do with the publisher. He's just a clerk, who's an accountant. Again, Prabhupada said, no, you go there, and you will see. And then Brahmananda will tell a story. If we can find it, if you go back to the original, go back to where all the list is. And it has, Bhagavad Gita, this one, Bhagavad Gita published.
Then I think that to publish Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada was so determined to publish it, there was no money to print it ourselves. And anyway, our Luther, who was, although he wasn't a Vaishnava, wasn't loyal, was that lifestyle, but he was very sympathetic with India, and he liked some Prabhupada stuff in Chennai Krishna before you knew it poetry, and he knew that. He gave Prabhupada from his first harmonium, which he had done in India, and he would give donations, universities, and his houses. Anyway, when the manuscript was ready for printing, we gave it to Alan. He was very enthusiastic. He sent his publishers, but they rejected it. And then he sent some other publishers. Again, everyone rejected it. And after about 6 months of trying, he just lost interest. Everyone was rejecting it. So then Prabhupada gave the manuscript to Balaram, who was the editor of Dr. Godhead. And so he tried. He was sending around to academic publishers. Again, everyone rejected. The liberals, thank you very much. Otherwise, it's considered war. So then after Superman Luger, so then Prabhupada gave to me to do. Anyway, by that time, I had actually no faith that this was, because I could see there was no commercial value. I mean, that was very Krishna. So if you're not Krishna conscious, you're not interested in Krishna conscious, you're not going to be interested in this concept. There's no fancy poetry or scholarly footnotes, academics. And I have read, for about years, no esoteric things. So I just had no faith. I didn't know what to do. I was going to bookstores and trying to see how they were doing, and then to learn how they were published. Going to the library, reading, and trying to find out how to do this, but I didn't know what to do. So in the meantime, Prabhupada had recorded the record, Hare Krishna record, which eventually he was interested in. And the record was a lot of interest. she played all night long. For 10 hours, they played like it over and over again. WBAI, one of these more popular radio stations. So, we were advertising directly different kind of underground publications. And all the painful directors. One day, I used to get the mail and bring it up to Brahmananda. We'd go over it together. He would dictate it, I would take notes, answer letters and so on. So, one letter came to a record. It was, the letter was from the McMillan Times. You know, big publisher. So, and it was on this letterhead, the letterhead, so-and-so was wearing a record album, check, and I rushed up to Prabhupada. The Prabhupada was someone from the room. I don't know what to do there. No, helpless. That's all the does, everything. So, the Prabhupada said, he said, you bring the record tomorrow, you bring it to the person, and you know that you have a dollar of detail that you want to publish. And I said, well, okay, I don't know, should I bring the records? But no, just tell us. And I said, well, okay, but I have to say something about you, yeah. Some of the other books he published, like from India, with the Korean publishing of that. And he said, no, just tell them that you have a bottle of these published. I said, okay. So the next day I got dressed up in a shirt tie, went uptown to the skyscraper. And the person who I was giving the record to was an accountant. And that's the rule with publishing. You just add a number. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to think, what kind of what's going in. So, anyway, we were talking about the record and so on. Kind of sitting there, the river. Then there, he lost no money. He almost said, very funny, he said, well, I'd like to introduce you to this is James Berry, so, and I just shook hands with Mr. Berry, and I just looked at him face. I said, I have a doubt that we reached office. He said, about what we do. But that's Swami, and he was Swami. He was New York. He did this himself. I said, yeah. He said, complete the entire Balaram Gita. I said, yes. And he said, well, that's exactly what I'm looking for. To fill out our reading section. I got Buddhas, we got the Quran. You have everything. You don't have a Bhagavad Gita. I need a Bhagavad Gita. You want us to talk? Well, we'll publish it. We'll publish it. And I couldn't believe what was happening. And he had to agree to publish it. We didn't even see the manuscript. And then everyone else had rejected it. For whatever reason. And here he was accepting it. But I didn't see it. I couldn't believe it. I just flew back down the Wi-Fi and told him the news. I was so excited. And Prabhupada was like he was expecting.
This is an interview. This is an interview with Brahmananda Goswami, a 3-hour interview. And this is where Brahmananda tells us the story of how he went to Africa. And Brahmananda, he was reading from the diary of his great-grandfather about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. At that time, he wasn't a sannyasi, he was called Balaram Prashad. And it's a diary written in Hindi, and he was telling us some of the pastimes of Balaram Prashad at that time. So it's a 3-hour interview, it's very nice. But this is just a 1-minute clip of how Prabhupada was sent, how Prabhupada sent Brahmananda to Africa.
But one thing, when I came, I wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada, glorifying your God. I thought it was the most wonderful place. And I wrote Prabhupada a letter saying how nice Vrindavan is. So Prabhupada's reply to me was not, he said that it's very nice that you're appreciating Vrindavan. But better, maybe he saw that I wanted maybe to stay in Vrindavan. He said, but better go to Africa and make a black Vrindavan.
Now we're going to hear from people initiated by Srila Prabhupada in his quarters, I guess, in his room. Yes. In 1974.
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारने निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे। Sorry, I am unable to speak in English. I will speak in Hindi. Okay, I never speak in English. Yes, I will speak. I speak. so Prabhupada जी की जय, ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी जी की जय। देखिए, मैं तो ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी ही बोलूँगा, क्योंकि मेरी जो पहली मुलाकात हुई ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी जी से प्रभुपाद क्वार्टर में।
I met Brahmananda Swami first in Srila Prabhupada's quarters. कौन सा साल था?
74।
1974।
तो हमारे दिल्ली से हम लोग 3 डिसाइपल थे, जिनमें से अभी एक मैं रह गया हूँ, बाकी 2 तो भगवान के पास चले गए।
In Delhi, 3 Srila Prabhupada's disciples used to be there, but now only I am staying there.
फर्स्ट थे कृष्ण गोपाल दास एंड रत्नमाला देवी दासी।
Krishna Gopal Das and Ratnamala Devi Dasi.
और थर्ड माई सेल्फ, तीसरा मैं हूँ।
And third was
तो अभी मेरी दीक्षा नहीं हुई थी, उससे पहले साल में मैं यहाँ पर आया था, बिना पूछे हुए थे। जिस हमारे प्रेसिडेंट थे, बिना पूछे मैं यहाँ पर आ गया। तो मुझे जन्माष्टमी का दिन था वो।
So that time I was not initiated and I came to Vrindavan without taking permission.
तो उस समय
That was Janmashtami day.
उस समय हमारा मंदिर बन रहा था इस समय.
So the ISKCON Delhi temple was under construction.
तो यहाँ पर कीर्तन होता था हॉल में. शायद गर्ग मुनि शक्ल तो अभी मुझे याद नहीं रही उस समय. पहले यंग एज में क्या शक्ल थी, अभी शक्ल फेस बदल गया है अभी. तो
I didn't remember the face of the Garga Muni Prabhu, what he used to be at that time.
लेकिन शक्ति माता देवी दासी जो हैं ये तो दिल्ली में आती रहती थी, तो इनको तो बड़ी अच्छी तरह से मैं जानता हूँ.
And Devi Shakti Mataji, I know her very well because she used to come to the Delhi temple.
खैर उस समय मेरी दीक्षा होने वाली थी, लेकिन किसी वजह से मैंने खुद ही इनकार कर दिया. 4 रेगुलेशन नहीं पालन कर रहा था मैं.
That time I was not following the 4 regulative principles, so from my side I didn't accept the initiation that time.
क्योंकि तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी और एक शायद एक और थे स्वामी कोई, उन्होंने प्रभुपाद जी को बोल दिया कि ऐसे ऐसे दीक्षा लेने के लिए एक डिवोटी दिल्ली से आया. तो प्रभुपाद जी एग्री भी हो गए थे कि सवेरे दीक्षा होगी, लेकिन मैं रात को भाग गया.
So that time His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj was recommending my name to Srila Prabhupada, but I ran away from there.
तो ये सारी कथा मैंने जाकर के तेजस प्रभु को बताई मैंने, जो हमारे प्रेसिडेंट थे दिल्ली के. उन्होंने बोला ठीक किया आपने, ऐसे झूठ बोल के दीक्षा नहीं लेनी थी, क्योंकि 4 नियम में पालन नहीं कर रहा था, उनमें से एक नियम नहीं पालन हो रहा था मेरा.
So I went to Tejas Prabhu and I told all these things to him, and he said that you did the right thing because if you are not ready, you should not receive the initiation.
तो उन्होंने बोला कि अभी प्रभुपाद जी दिल्ली में आए हुए हैं, तो आप दिल्ली जाओ, मैं लेटर लिख देता हूँ.
So he said that now Srila Prabhupada has come to Delhi, so you go to Delhi and I will write a letter.
तो वो लेटर लेकर के मैं और कृष्ण गोपाल दास जो होम मिनिस्ट्री में सेवा करते थे उस समय, और मैं एजुकेशन में था, तो हम दिल्ली अपना वृंदावन आए. वृंदावन आकर के इसी रास्ते से, ये सामने वाला जहाँ पर फुहारे लगे होते थे जहाँ पर पहले, और सीढ़ियाँ होती थी जहाँ समाधि है यहाँ पर, तो वहाँ से सीधा प्रभुपाद जी के क्वार्टर में गए. ये गेस्ट हाउस अभी उस समय बन रहा था, अभी तैयार नहीं था. प्रभुपाद जी का क्वार्टर भी अभी ऐसा नहीं था, थोड़ा ठीक था. तो कमरे में जब घुसे तो ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी वहाँ पर डेस्क, छोटा डेस्क लेकर के बैठे हुए थे आसन के ऊपर.
So myself and Krishna Gopal Prabhu came from Delhi and through Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, where it is situated now, we went to Srila Prabhupada's quarters, and in the entry room, Brahmananda Maharaj was sitting there.
वो बोलते क्या करना है, क्यों आए हो?
So he asked me why you came here.
मैंने बोला दीक्षा लेने के लिए आया हूँ.
I told him that I came here to receive initiation.
कितने साल से रूल रेगुलेशन फॉलो करते हो?
Since how long you were following the 4 regulative principles?
वैसे जुड़ा तो मैं 71 में जुड़ गया था इसको उनसे, लेकिन रूल रेगुलेशन फॉलो करते हुए मुझे अभी 6 महीने हुए थे.
So I joined in 1971, but since last 6 months, I was following the 4 regulative principles.
तो तेजस दास ने वो लिख दिया था सारा उसमें. तो ये अपना ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी कहते हैं नहीं नहीं नहीं, जाओ आप प्रभुपाद जी से नहीं मिल सकते हो, 2 साल के बाद आना.
So Tejas Prabhu wrote all these things in the letter, but here Brahmananda Prabhu said that no, you go back and come back after 2 years.
तो मैंने ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी को कहा कि ये लेटर है, ये प्रभुपाद जी को आप दे देंगे? कहते हाँ यस, ये मैं दे दूंगा.
So I gave the letter to Brahmananda Swami and I requested him to give the letter to Srila Prabhupada.
तो प्रभुपाद जी को लेटर दे दिया गया और प्रभुपाद जी ने उसी समय हमें बुला लिया.
So he gave the letter to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada called us immediately.
और तो ये पॉइंट मैं ये बोलना चाह रहा था ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी जी के बारे में कि जब मैं आया तो वैसे भी हेल्दी थे वो, और डंडा भी था हाथ में पकड़ा हुआ, और लाल मुंह था, आंखें भी थोड़ी लाल थी, तो मैं थोड़ा डर गया जब उन्होंने बोला नहीं 2 साल के बाद आना।
So the point I wanted to make that when I came here, he was very healthy. He was holding his sannyas danda. His face was reddish, and when he told me that come back after 2 years, I became very fearful.
तो खैर उस दिन मेरी दीक्षा हो गई, राधाष्टमी था उस दिन। प्रभुपाद जी ने मुझे बोला कि हालांकि इतने बाल थे मेरे उस समय भी, लेकिन फिर भी प्रभुपाद जी ने बोला कि आप मुंडन करा के आओ, जमुना जी में स्नान करके आओ, धोती कुर्ता नया लेके आओ और आपकी दीक्षा हो जाएगी। तो हो गई उस दिन।
So Prabhupada called me and he said that you go and shave your head and wear new dhoti kurta and I will initiate you on Radhashtami.
तो ये पहले दर्शन मुझे ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी के उस दिन हुए थे जब मेरी पहली दीक्षा हुई है।
So this was the first darshan of Brahmananda Swami when I was getting initiated.
लेकिन मैं हमेशा डरता रहता था उनसे।
But I was always very fearful of them.
आज क्योंकि सवेरे बताया गया कि आज तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी का भी आविर्भाव है, तो उनके साथ भी मेरा मुलाकात हुई है। जब मेरी ब्राह्मण दीक्षा हुई बंगाली मार्केट में 75 में, जब हमारा फेस्टिवल भी था रामलीला ग्राउंड में, वहाँ पर 3rd फेस्टिवल था शायद वो दिल्ली का। पहला 71 में कनाट प्लेस और दूसरा एक और था जगह, और तीसरा ये था रामलीला ग्राउंड में। तो उन दिनों मेरी ब्राह्मण दीक्षा होनी थी, तो रतनमाला देवी दासी की भी होनी थी ब्राह्मण दीक्षा, तो कोई लेके नहीं जा रहा था हमें। प्रेसिडेंट ने बोला, गोपाल सिंह महाराज को, उसमें महाराज नहीं थे, सन्यासी थे वो, उनको बोला, उन्होंने तमाल कृष्ण महाराज को बोला जाके इनको ले जाओ प्रभुपाद जी के पास, लेकिन कोई नहीं लेके जा रहा था। तो जो हमारी गुरु बहन थी प्रभुपाद जी के साथ ज़्यादा खुली थी वो, उसने मेरी बाजू पकड़ी, पकड़ के खींच के लेके चल प्रभुपाद जी के पास, आपकी दीक्षा हो जाएगी, ये कोई लेके नहीं जाएगा।
So today is also the Vyas Puja of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and in 1975 when I was getting initiated, second initiation, and nobody was in Bengali market in Delhi, but nobody was taking us to Srila Prabhupada.
तो वो हमारी गुरु बहन जो थी वो मुझे खींच के ले गई प्रभुपाद जी के पास, तो एकदम गेट खोल दिया। मैं तो हाथ छुड़ा करके पीछे आ गया डरता हुआ, और वो अंदर चले गए। क्या बात है, मेरी और श्री धाम की ब्राह्मण दीक्षा होनी है और ये हमें कोई लेके नहीं आ रहा है। तो वो कहाँ है श्रीधाम, वो बाहर खड़ा है, बुलाओ उसको। कहते अच्छा 2 मिनट आप बाहर खड़े रहिए, पहले इनकी दीक्षा होएगी, उसके बाद फिर आपकी दीक्षा होगी।
So one of our god sister took us to Srila Prabhupada, and then she asked that what happened, why Sri Ram Guru is not getting the Brahman initiation. So then Prabhupada said, where he is, call him.
So जब मैं अंदर गया तो रतनमाला देवी तो बाहर आ गई, और प्रभुपाद जी कहते हैं कि यज्ञोपवीत है? कि हाँ जी है। 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 ऐसे गिनती प्रभुपाद जी ने की, उनके पीछे पीछे मैंने की।
So I went inside and then Prabhupada was showing me how to do the counting.
So यज्ञोपवीत जब मांगा उन्होंने मेरे से, तो वो मेरे से खुल नहीं रहा था। तो तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी को प्रभुपाद जी ने कहा कि ये पागल तोड़ देगा और आप खोलो।
So when I was there with Prabhupada, I was not able to open the thread. So Prabhupada called Tamal Krishna Maharaj and he said that he will break the thread. So you open it.
तो उनसे भी नहीं खुला वो।
So he was also unable to open.
तो फिर प्रभुपाद जी कहते मुझे दो, मैं खोलता हूँ।
So then Prabhupada asked for the thread and then he opened the thread.
पर प्रभुपाद जी ने 1 सेकंड में खोल दिया उसको।
So Prabhupada opened this in 1 second.
तो इस प्रकार तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी से इस प्रकार मेरी मुलाकात हुई है।
So in this way I also had association with Tamal Krishna Maharaj.
तमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी की, ब्रह्मानंद स्वामी की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की, धन्यवाद।
12:30, in half an hour, we'll be going to Goshala.
I just have a question for Sri
Sridhar Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Oh, Ramaswamy in 1974, right?
Yes.
74. Okay.
74 Ramaswamy.
74 Ramaswamy.
वृंदावन वृंदावन प्रभुपाद
प्रभुपाद के कमरे में
हाँ जी
केवल आप और प्रभुपाद थे और कोई नहीं था।
नहीं वहाँ पर माधुष्ण गोस्वामी भी थे और उनको मैं जानता नहीं हूँ लेकिन उनको तो इसलिए जानता था क्योंकि माथे पर था ना काला रंग का बाकी तो लाल को तो जानता था कमाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी उनको जानता था लेकिन बाकियों को नहीं जानता था उनको माथे पर काला किया था बाकियों को मैं नहीं जानता था
Paramahansa Swami was here. You were here. Brahmananda was here. Balaram was here.
75 में तो मेरा वो हुआ है 75 में तो second musician हुआ है
Because Radhasmi Prabhupada was sick in 74. I'm just trying to figure out when it was. If you don't remember it, I don't remember it. Prabhuji, वो something 73 में था. Kumar Krishna Rajida था 73 में.
73 में वो
और मैं देखे हैं वो दिव्य Prabhupada disciples के database में 73 में लिखा. आपके दीक्षित 73 में था. 73 yeah. 73